So mandates surrounding travel and federal workers will lift next week. Domestic and outbound international travels don't need to get vaccinated to get on a plane or train. Masks still required. Unvaccinated federal workers on unpaid leave, there are now, just to clarify that number I said earlier, there are 2,108 as of May 30th, will be able to start and work again. They will not be compensated, according to Dominic LeBlanc, who just told us. Is the government bowing to science? Did they do this too little, too late? We want to get some reaction from the opposition. The Conservative health critic Michael Barrett joins us, and the NDP transport critic Taylor Bachrach joins us. Okay, you were just listening to Minister LeBlanc on that, Mr. Barrett. The government says they're cautious now. There's no magic number. They just feel this is the prudent time. What's your reaction to the lifting of the mandates?
Well, not only is there not a magic number, they're not giving us any numbers, Evan, and we've been asking patiently, month after month, for what metrics they're using. And the minister wanted to minimize opposition efforts to provide some transparency to Canadians, which is really, what we've come to expect. And Canadians can put their trust, put their confidence in government when government is honest and forthright with them. So we don't know. So the minister talked about hospitalizations. Well, there obviously has to be a threshold. The provinces used modeling and shared that with the public when they were going to introduce restrictions, loosen restrictions, and eliminate restrictions. And the federal government has refused to do that. And we also heard from Dr. Tam at the Health Committee that the decision to lift the restrictions or to impose the restrictions was not one that was being made by her or by her department. It was being made by cabinet. And so this was a political decision. And, aside from the minister saying he wouldn't succumb to question period drama, he may have succumbed to caucus drama, because we saw in the last week that an overwhelming number of the Liberal caucus, including the physicians in their caucus, had called for these restrictions to be lifted over and over again. And so we're really just not sure why they're doing it now. And they're not fully lifted. They're suspended with a possibility of them to be reimposed later, which is going to do very little to, encourage confidence for small businesses, for individuals. So there's a lot more questions than answers with the government's announcement today.
Mr. Bachrach, what questions do you have about the lifting?
Well, I think many of the same questions, but from the beginning of the pandemic, over 2 years ago, Canadians have done the right thing. They've gotten vaccinated in huge numbers. They've worn masks. They've stayed home when they're sick. And there was a high degree of public trust at the beginning because people were getting answers to the questions they had. Now, over the past number of months, people are asking very rational, very reasonable questions about how these health measures work. And frankly, they've been stonewalled by the government. The government says, we don't have to explain to you how these work or what the thresholds are or what the scientific evidence is. And frankly, that's something that erodes public trust precisely at a time when we need public trust more than ever.
Well, do you buy, Mr. Barrett, the government's notion that there's a lot of factors here? It's not one thing. It's not beds. It's not. They have to be prudent. They have to be cautious. Do you buy that? And if so, what do you think the benchmarks ought to be? And I was pressing the government on this. What are the thresholds? What are the benchmarks? It doesn't have to be a magic stew, but what ought they be in your mind?
Well, they need to tell us today, for example, what are the epidemiological factors that they were shown, that they analyzed, that said it was safe to lift them. And so we can list them all, whether it's wastewater surveillance or the R0 or case counts or what's the positivity rate of people crossing the border, hospital beds that are available, on and on and on. But they're telling us absolutely nothing. The only information we can get is collected from the provinces, nothing from the federal government. So there just needs to be some kind of transparency there, because they said as recently as yesterday that it was unsafe for someone who was unvaccinated to get on a plane with someone who had 2 shots. And now today they're saying that 2 shots is not enough to protect you from COVID, but you can get on a plane no matter what your vaccination status is. So very inconsistent messaging from the government. So just tell us what they learned today, and then we can evaluate that against future performance as long as they keep us up to date with what they're observing.
And just out of interest, Mr. Bachrach, the other issue is international travelers are still subjected to the 14-day quarantine, which is, by the way, longer than most provinces. That would still apply to cross-border truckers. What's your take on that, Mr. Bachrach?
Well, ultimately, Evan, this all comes back to what advice is public health giving to the government? We need any public health measures to be based on advice from our public health professionals, and we need some transparency that explains if there are measures in place, such as those quarantine measures you mentioned, how does that contribute to our fight against COVID? What science is it based on, and how does the mechanism work? And that's the transparency that's really been missing. So I think Canadians are on board with a public health approach that that is relatively cautious and protects people's health, but they deserve answers to those basic questions. And people start looking at other provinces, they look at what other countries are doing, and they're asking things that, as we heard in your discussion with the minister, they're not getting answers to. And I think that needs to change.
Just before I let you go, Mr. Barrett, a story's just broke, and I'll credit the National Post, but I know there's an order paper that you submitted asking about the Governor General, Mary Simon's catering bill and bills and guests during a Dubai trip. Can you tell us what you were asking and what information you've obtained?
Yeah, look, we always want transparency from the government on what their costs are for international travel, particularly at a time when Canadians haven't been able to travel and we're experiencing, a cost of living crisis. For most Canadians, they can barely afford a tank of gas or a full week's worth of groceries. And so at a time when that's happening, to take a look and see what government is spending on their trips. We set the same order paper question for ministers, for the Prime Minister, but as well as for the Governor General. And it's always disappointing to see that while we recognize that there's important work that our head of state and our head of government need to do. What's the level of luxury or excess that they're enjoying while they're doing that? All while there is that affordability crisis in Canada. And while I don't have the numbers in front of me, I'm sure you do. You'll see, and if you share them with your viewers, that it's excessive. It's excessive.
Okay, you're saying, just quickly, according to the National Post reporting this right now, that, and I just want you to confirm here, Mary Simon, the Governor General, and her 29 fellow passengers used $93,117 in catering services aboard the RCAF CC-150 Polaris during her March 16th, March 24th trip to the Expo 2020 in Dubai. How do you know that's excessive?
That's an incredible amount of money, $96,000 for, let's break down what the regular costs are for a family to feed themselves for a week. They weren't on the plane the whole time. We don't know what their costs were at destination. We're talking about just what they were consuming in flight. And so $96,000 is an incredible sum of money to most Canadians. And, it's an average Canadian family. That's their household income for the year. For many Canadians, that well exceeds their household income for a year. And they spent it on a single trip. And I don't think that they were eating Kraft dinner and Campbell's soup and drinking Tim Hortons coffee on the plane. I imagine that if we had a breakdown of what they were into, they were enjoying themselves a lot more than most Canadians can when they can't even put a tank of gas in their car and they can't afford to feed their family for a week.
Right. Well, let me ask the NDP. I mean, do you expect the governor? What do you think of the costs, sir? Would you expect the Governor General to be having crackers and mac and cheese? I'm not trying to justify it. I'm just trying to get at a sense of what's normal for these VIP trips. I have no idea. Mr. Bachrach.
Well, there's nothing wrong with transparency and there's nothing wrong with accountability. These are important tenets of our political system. And I think getting some answers to these questions is perfectly reasonable. And, understanding better, we don't have all the information at this point. So I'd be happy to look at that once we have the actual numbers and provide a more in-depth response. But, obviously there are costs, and sometimes those costs are outside of people's control. They come with the system that we have. But certainly transparency and accountability, and if changes need to be made, then we can have that conversation at that point.
Right. Listen, I think everybody here agrees on one thing: transparency on all these things. Okay, Mr. Bachrach, Mr. Barrett, by the way, I know I kind of jumped you with that. That story just broke, but it was Mr. Barrett's order paper, so I thought, hey, let's get the man who's requested this information to comment on it. Thank you, Mr. Barrett. I appreciate it.